and hello and welcome to another action-packed, exciting hour of the Smoky Mountain Rewatch Along podcast. This is podcasting the way it used to be and the way you like it. This show is a production of the Something Else Podcasting Network, and it is episode number 105 of Smoky Mountain Wrestling from January 29th, 1994, taped January 10th, 1994, at Chilhowie High School in Chilhowie, Virginia. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Punxsutawney to my Schuylkill Haven. It's Trae. Trae, outside of me screwing up the name of the show, how you doing today?
Hey, not too bad. I have some sad news right off of the breaking news, I guess. When it comes
Logan Paul
crashing
still alive?
down, no, sadder than that. When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside, guitar legend Rick Derringer has passed away.
I saw that. He is the
Uh,
vocalist of the Hulk Hogan Real American theme.
yeah. Also, wrote also the writer and
Uh,
artist, and
Artist
was
and
the
was the
producer
producer.
on WrestleMania on the wrestling album and Pile Driver, the wrestling album.
Which is not to be confused with WrestleMania, the album. I think he would be
No,
smart enough
entirely
to not
different.
have, yeah, I think he'd be smart enough to not have a song about WrestleMania start with Jimmy Garvin screaming, "Are you ready for the Survivor Series?"
Oh, he was also the writer and artist for the iconic Demolition theme, one of the greatest themes of all time. As is, look, Hulk Hogan is whatever, but like, okay, you've been in the arena when fucking Real American plays, like you cannot help but
I,
feel hype.
I have sang along at WrestleMania to that song.
Yeah, guilty. But yeah,
Yeah.
R.I.P. Rick Derringer, creator of like one of the very great him and Jim Johnson, right, are the very tippy
Yeah.
top greatest like wrestling music creators.
And I'll be honest, like, I know he gets some crap, but I liked a lot of CFO's stuff. Because, like,
I
he had
really,
Sasha Banks' original
yeah,
song and, you know,
CFO
yeah,
was great, and I think people realized it once they were gone and Def Rebel came along.
yeah. And I mean, they're
Mikey Ruckus
uh,
also tremendous.
in AEW. Um,
Yes.
he was on Heels. He was one of the first Heels calls I was on. He actually got the job, and I hope I'm remembering the story right, and I hope I'm not confusing him with somebody else. But I believe he got the job because when AEW was announced, he just reached out and asked, Tony if he could be considered. And one thing led to
Hey,
another.
respect. He's
Yeah,
done really great stuff.
yeah. Um, so by the way, Trey, I was looking this up because I couldn't remember if we talked about WrestleMania moving out of New Orleans or not. I thought we did, but I couldn't find any notes about us talking about it. Do you have any thoughts on WrestleMania moving out of New Orleans next year?
So, did I see correctly that they subsequently announced that it is going to be in Vegas second
It
year?
it's not official yet, but that is
Okay.
the leading theory that they want to have it
Uh,
in Vegas once every few years at least. And
so
I I don't even know, like, because, like, and you think, like, oh, it's all money, but it's like, it's not like, oh, if they're in New Orleans, they're not going to charge absurd ticket prices. They were still going to charge absurd ticket prices in New Orleans. It's not like, oh, it's only a Vegas thing. Um, so it's more like, Vegas offered them a nicer chunk of change than New Orleans did, I guess. And
yeah, and I mean, one of the few cities in America that can compete with New Orleans in terms of a tourist destination is Vegas. and
Yeah.
I assume it was a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, apparently the convention center, not even Alliance or what the hell's the name of the stadium? Alliance
Allegiant
Stadium?
Stadium.
Allegiant Stadium, yes. So the convention center where they're holding the WWE World paid somewhere between $5 and $10 million. So I mean, come on. Like, if you offer me $5 to $10 million, I will bring you my wrestling show there. I do not have
Look,
one, but I will get one and put it in your arena if you give me $5 to $10 million.
look, okay, and I am not defending like anything that Vince has ever done in any domain,
Mhm.
but just that as like the head of the company, I think Vince was more apt to maybe make a choice that was the less short-term profit if he thought it was better for like long-term optics or something.
Yeah.
And it's just the new this new I don't know if administration is the word, but this new corporate entity that is WWE under TKO Endeavor are the whatever soul Vince McMahon put into his little wrestling company, quote unquote, is gone now.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not defending anything that Vince has done in wrestling or in his personal life. I'm just saying completely as the Walt Disney of a pro wrestling. And yeah, I think that's fair to say because Walt Disney also has some undesirable baggage. It's
Hmm.
just the soul is not there anymore.
Like, and there's a few things that it's like it is painfully obvious this is not Vince McMahon's WWE. Um, like the sponsors on the mat, like
Yeah,
Vince,
yeah.
like that was the one thing Vince was adamant that he would never do was put sponsors on the mat. He thought it looked tacky. And the other thing, and okay, we all know what side of the political aisle Vince McMahon is on. That is not up for debate. However, Vince McMahon, the businessman, never allowed anything onto his TV with one
Yeah.
exception that made you go in one way or the other.
Right.
Like he never would have invited Trump to WrestleMania, no matter how unlikely Trump it was that Trump would go. Vince never would have done that. Like Vince, like you can look in WWE, financials. They donated a lot of money to Republican presidential candidates, but they would donate the exact same amount of money to the Democratic candidate as well.
Well, right around the time that you and I would have been becoming voting age, they had they had a big pro voting campaign and they were very, very consciously nonpartisan about that. It was just, vote.
With one exception. Um, and it's kind of a famous one exception. It was when the night before the 2000 election between Al Gore and George W. Bush, and Vince had JR and the King go on and talk about what a nerd Al Gore was and how nobody would vote for Al Gore, and basically implying that only cool people vote for George W. Bush. And a lot of people point to that as swinging a lot of votes towards Bush. So you think about like,
I
I
do.
mean, you had what, 2, 3 million voting age people, maybe more, 4 million voting age people watching Raw. And I'm assuming at least a few of them didn't know what way they were going to go or would be easily swayed.
Well, it, unless we can figure out that Vince Sr. somehow facilitated the election of Ronald Reagan, I don't think we can blame the McMahons for completely destroying the country.
Oh my God. So I bringing up Reagan made me think about this. So I'm not a historian. I'm not. I know a little bit and I like to stay informed enough that I can just at least up until a few years ago when I just threw my hands up and said fuck it. I like to be able to discuss it in a calm, rational way, and because I figured calm, rational people exist. Anyway, so I had read a lot about Reagan and Reaganomics specifically, And one day I was at work. Now, admittedly, I'm 21, 22 years old. I get it. I get that if a 21-year-old came up to me right now and tried telling me that everything I thought was right was wrong, I'd probably roll my eyes and just move on with my life. I understand that. However, I had a coworker inform me that I could not be right because I was not, well, I was alive, but I wasn't old enough to understand what the country was like under Reaganomics. So my opinion didn't count. And keep in mind, this was somebody who was a real Civil War buff. Like he was a big fan. He'd read Civil War books
God.
and, really get into that. And I'm like, so you're 150 years old, is what you're telling me? It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you weren't alive during the Civil War, yet, you're a big Civil War buff. Well, that's not the same, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, and it was a small group. Like there was three of us, and like our third coworker who was technically my boss. He was always laughing because, I was not backing down from these shenanigans.
Yeah.
Um, so by the way, did you ever watch Collision from like 2 weeks ago?
I actually finished that this morning.
From 2 weeks ago? The one out the one
Uh from
the week of Ricochet versus
from
Zach Allen on Dynamite.
from the 17th, the beach break show.
Okay, okay, yeah. So the version that you watched, did it have the entire show?
Yes, it did.
But you know what happened with the TNT version, right? Or
I
whatever
have
network it aired on that
heard
night.
I have heard that something went awry.
Yes. So something happened. Well, there's TNT or TBS. I honestly don't remember. And 90 minutes into the show, it just cut off and went to the movie that was coming on after uh, Collision.
Oh god.
And
Oh no.
uh, yeah, and this 30 minutes is apparently never going to air in the United States. And no one really knows why or what happened, but um, whatchamacallit, TK put out that, I don't know what happens. There's a transmission issue, but it's going to be fixed for the West Coast fans, and the West Coast fans will see the entire collision beginning to end. Well, the exact same thing happened to the West Coast fans too.
Oh no.
And then
Oh,
the
that
show,
sucks. Oh.
I'm sure because it's been 2 weeks now. I'm sure at some point it's gone up onto Max, but apparently it was not up on Max for like days afterwards. And it's like, well, if you want to
Wow.
watch that match between Crew and Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, too bad.
So I had the thought. Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara and Crew had a very good match, by the way. But the main event was Powerhouse Hobbs against Wheeler Yuta, which I thought was a rather unremarkable match, and I was left feeling that this was a below average collision, and because of that, for the like until Dynamite, people are just going to be carrying on like the sky is on fire. And so yeah, little did I know that apparently they were carrying on for different reasons.
Yep. And it's funny because like people are freaking out on both sides of the AEW fandom. Either the AEW is the worst thing ever, or AEW is the greatest thing ever. I'm like, does nobody remember when this happened to Impact the one time when I think they were on Pop TV, and it was that once every 3 months when they would do a live episode, and for some reason there was a transmission issue. So like all you got was 2 hours of like the same three commercials over and over again. It was Schitt's Creek, um, that random game show with the British guy that I can't remember the name of, but I can see it in my head, and a generic Pop TV ad, and that aired over and over and over again for 2 hours. And I remember watching it just out of like, you know, out of sheer like joy about the preposterosity of this, and it was all Pop TV.
Yeah,
It's like
I
no
kind
one
of
remembers
yeah, I
that.
remember that.
Yeah.
You
Um,
know, it's just well, people are so prone to catastrophize now, especially about AEW. And it's like, I don't know. It sucks because that really is like an LOL WCW kind of moment, but it's not
Yeah.
AEW's fault at all. And it
No.
makes you wonder, okay, well, how much of those LOL WCW things were fucking Turner fucking up like that?
I mean, okay, it's Bischoff, so he can take everything he says with a grain of salt, but like I remember he talked about when Fusion was going to buy the company, he was telling the guys, I'm like, okay, you don't understand. We need to like gut this company and just like hire new people. And they're like, oh, we don't want to put people out of business. We don't want to put people out of work and yada yada yada. And then they met them and they were like, yeah, we need to just hire new people.
Is it fair to
Uh,
say that Bischoff, I think, has a very good mind for business, just a very bad mind for the wrestling business?
I think he's in sales, is able to sell himself, which is fantastic, and he's able to sell his vision, um, and
Here's the
which is,
thing.
mhm,
Here's the thing. And you look at his track record in WCW, and you see when they went up and when they eventually started going down. If you
mhm,
had, if you had a booker, like for example, you had Kevin Sullivan, who was there a lot of the time and was the booker, and it was a fine booker. Or even if you want
Harry
to give
Taylor.
somebody a chance, like this is a terrible example, but Kevin Nash, because he was a terrible booker, but he was a creative guy, you want to give him a chance.
Mhm.
Like, have the booking separate from the Bischoff was great in the promotional end, the television end, like as far as getting eyes on WCW, he did really well. The problem was like, and again, like WWE, nobody says anything negative about Bischoff in WWE because he was strictly a TV character and he's a great performer. But then he goes to
Mhm.
TNA and is dog shit again because once again he has creative input. Okay, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Bischoff, I definitely think he has a place in the business. It's just not in anything to do with creative.
And I remember when he went to TNA, like in my head, I remembered his story about when he got Nitro. And he's like, okay, how can we be different than WWE Raw? And there were a lot of ways you could be different from Raw back in 1995. And I remember thinking when we were going to 2010, I'm like, there's not a lot of things you can do different than Raw. Basically, you can do good women's matches because this was during the peak of the Diva era. Even though they had Beth Phoenix and they had Natalia, and they had like competent workers, you had a whole shit ton of Kelly Kellys and Alicia Foxes. No disrespect to Kelly Kelly and Alicia Fox, but they're not the all-time peak of the women's division here. Um,
Not
and
not Chigusa Nagayo or Lioness Asuka.
no. So what TNA had that they could have really gone with was the strong X division, which was weakened, but you could turn it around. A strong
Yeah.
knockouts division, which again was weakened, but you could turn it around. And blood, because that was when WWE had
Yeah.
banned blood, and they had famously started stopping live pay-per-view matches to patch up cuts. Did a ladder match with Christian and Shelton Benjamin in 2009.
Oh
That was the first time a match got stopped for blood, so they could patch them up to restart it. I don't know if you remember
no,
that. Well, that's the
I
first
do
one I
remember that.
remember.
That was not the first time that they did it. That was the first time that they did it on a pay-per-view in a gimmick match.
That's the first time I remember it. I'll have to take your word for it that it wasn't the first
I
time.
the way that I remember was that it had been happening and it was annoying, and then that was just the holy fuck. I can't believe they did that during a ladder match on pay-per-view.
And so I'm like, okay, there's three things WWE doesn't do that TNA could do. Women's division, X division, blood. Well, we got one of
Yeah.
those three things. TNA became the bloodiest promotion in the world. And we're not talking about the slang British version either.
The X division should be like the easiest thing in the world. Like at any point,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
give me any TEW scenario where the X division is in the shitter. And at any point in the existence of TNA, there is a plethora of independent talent that can work that style and do some cool, impressive shit. You could revitalize the X Division instantly at any point in history.
And the funny thing is, like, and a lot of people pointed this out, the X Division is basically modern day pro wrestling. Like, for better or
Yeah.
worse, you know, like the X Division, like when Jeff Jarrett famously wanted them to be video game matches and be like nonstop, balls to the walls, high flying, yada, yada, yada. That is, I don't want to say that's AEW, but in some ways, that's AEW. They have made quite the run out of essentially doing an X Division promotion.
Yeah, I think that there is a very strong influence on modern wrestling from what certain guys were doing in the 2000s, and there's a very strong overlap of those guys working in like ROH and PWG and the X
Yeah,
Division.
yeah. And I mean, it's always hilarious when you look at the TNA roster in that 2009, 2013, and see like so many of these guys that like either didn't get a chance or didn't really get a real chance and see where they are now. Like, obviously, I'm not a fan of the Young Bucks, but the Young Bucks were there for years, did nothing. The Motor City Machine Guns were there for years, and depending on the minute, either did nothing or everything. There never seemed to be a happy medium there. And it's like it, and I mean, there's many other examples, but it's like they had Okada for months. They had Tanahashi. They had Yujiro, Naito. You know, they had talent. And now, mind you, those last few names were all people from New Japan, but it was them fucking up the Okada something fierce, especially.
I
That led to that.
remember
Hmm?
I remember that Naito and Yujiro lost a handicap match to Kevin Nash.
Yeah. Do you remember when Hiroshi Tanahashi and I think Volador
Yeah,
got booked got booked in a tag team ladder match against Matt Morgan and Abyss?
I didn't remember that part. You said Tanahashi and Volador Jr. and that rings a bell. I associate like you say that and I'm like I think that was something that was fun. So was it fun?
I mean it's Vince Russo TNA and they're both foreign, so take that for what it's worth. From what I remember, it was like a 3 minute ladder match, which is actually a marathon match by Vince Russo standards, but
I may be thinking about like Volador doing that World X Cup in Houston that time or something.
that was different.
Tanahashi,
Yeah.
yeah, Tanahashi had a pretty decent pay-per-view match with AJ Styles that ended when I think like Shannon Moore ran in and accidentally hit Tanahashi with the fucking award
God,
thing that
yes.
he. I have not seen this match since it happened. This is all from memory, and I don't know what this
Yep.
says about me. But and then
Final
they had
final
a match.
final
Uh,
resolution 2006. It was the same pay-per-view as remember when I talked about the America's Most Wanted Team 3D blind referee finish? That's where that
yeah,
was from too.
I just recalled that Tanahashi and AJ about a year later had a match in New Japan that was better.
I just
And then they had
remember,
matches in New Japan like 8 years later that were even fucking better than that.
yeah, yeah. I just remember the story when Nakamura went in for like a couple matches in like 2008, and the story was they didn't understand why New Japan was going with Nakamura because he had no charisma and no personality when they had Tanahashi who had lots more of it. And
Okay, to
Tanahashi had
be
a lot of
fair,
personality.
and I was heavily involved in like the Western sort of Japanese wrestling fandom on the internet at the time. And I think it was a pretty common thing that Tanahashi was the guy and that Nakamura had like a lot of promise as a kind of an Inoki type wrestler, but was very bland. Nakamura did not start finding his charisma till about like 2008, 2009.
I just like because I didn't know Bill from Joe when it came to Japanese wrestling in 2008. And so like it never really occurred to me how absurd that was until I went back and reading it retroactively. I'm like, wow, where the hell did that
Yeah,
come
no,
from? But yeah. Then I remember it was also the
Nakamura
Inoki.
was
It was still
yeah.
the Inoki era. It was still the heavy MMA influence, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, I gotta say, like of all the things Inoki did well, that last 5 years or so, that could have been a lot better, I'll say.
And yet I have such a soft spot in my heart for it because that was like the time that I was starting to watch that stuff and it just compared to like the fucking Triple H reign of terror, that was just I
Oh yeah,
enjoyed that so much more.
it was at least different.
Yeah.
I always have to laugh that oh my first real New Japan show was the one with the fucking Gracies in it.
Yeah, that
Uh
was a yeah. One of the very first tapes that I got, it was I don't think it was the first, but was Bob Sapp winning the IWGP Heavyweight title.
nice. So it's like I remember I watched I think that's the 2013 Tokyo Dome because I watched that and I watched a couple shows like I followed it but I didn't really watch it and then the G1 hit that year and I believe Okada won that. I could be forgetting something, but it was the year after uh no, oh my God, I'm fucking this up.
2013 was Naito.
Okay, was
Okada
oh yeah,
2012 and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
2014, Naito 2013.
Yep, 2013 was the one because yeah, that's why I'm like fucking up. I'm like, what wasn't it Naito? And yeah, 2013 was my first G1, and I was kind of hooked from there. And
Yeah.
uh, I don't want to say I didn't miss a show because I skipped a lot of the Road 2 shows, but I hit almost every major show until the pandemic. After that point, um,
Yeah, I kind of like when I was in undergrad, I wasn't watching a lot of wrestling just because I had like stuff going on and things were actually going well in my life. And then the time that I was in grad school coincided with like the revival of New Japan.
hmm
And then that was like I just had to have something to keep my brain afloat. And that was when I
and
really, got
and
back into it.
And I'll be honest, like, and I told Dave this a couple times. I'm like, I got into New Japan because of him, because him just marking the fuck out for New Japan all the time. I'm like, okay, and like I can torrent this shit. Like I gotta fucking watch this show, see what is so amazing. And it's like and I was a little iffy because it's like, okay, it's all Japanese announcers, so like I don't speak Japanese, obviously but it didn't matter. It was so fucking good. And fell in love
Yeah.
immediately. And then like the next year was when they brought in JR and Matt Stryker for the 1 year. And then I don't think they did any other English speaking shows until 2015. And then it was slowly integrating to where like a year or so later was every show.
Yeah. Them bringing AJ Styles in 2014 was like a really
Oh
big
yeah,
thing for their expansion.
yeah. Um, I don't know why I keep thinking it's 2013, but I know it's not 2013 because he was still in TNA until the end of the year. But yeah, AJ Styles was a big deal because I think also everyone was waiting for AJ to fall on his face because it's like, okay, he's a whatever, he's leaving TNA. He's too good to take a pay
Uh,
cut to stay in TNA. And the motherfucker bet on himself, and it really paid
hey,
off.
that was the New Japan run was what finally got him into the Hall of Fame. He was
Oh
never
yeah,
going to get in as just the TNA guy. The New
yeah.
Japan run was where like that was when he went from like AJ Styles is like the best guy in TNA to like no AJ Styles is like one of the top two or three guys in the world.
Yep, indeed. All right, so we're 30 plus minutes in. You want to talk about Smoky Mountain Wrestling?
Well, I guess we should.
Okay. Let's go to the intro here. Oh my God, like really? I've written a paragraph about what we've talked about other than the show, and we haven't even talked about the show yet. All right, let's go to the intro with Bob and Dutch and hear what's going to happen on this week's show.
Welcome to another exciting action-packed hour of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Professional wrestling, the way it used to be and the way you like it. Hi, wrestling fans. I'm Bob Cole along with Dr. Dirty Dutch Mantell. A great hour in store for all our wrestling fans this week. Dutch, we got a U.S. Junior Heavyweight title match. Louis Spiccoli and Chris Candido. That's going to get our program underway. Killer Kyle is going to be here. He's going to take on the Dirty White Boy. That's going to be some match. We're going to be hearing from Terry Funk. That's going to be about Sunday, Bloody Sunday, no doubt about that. And then what about down in Dirty?
Okay, it's my special guest today, Jimmy Cornette, who has got some special words to say. Something about some legal proceedings and a court injunction. Right, my special guest today. Stay tuned and listen to it.
All right, fans, as we say, we're going to have a Junior Heavyweight title match, our opening bout. Let's bring in Louis Spiccoli right here, newcomer to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Understand you came all the way over here just to find and track down Chris Candido.
That's right, I came all the way from California. That loudmouth Chris Candido, he don't want to come out and give me a title shot, so I just had to come here to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and I'm not going back to California a loser. I'm going to get him right now.
All right, fans, as we say, that's our first match, and we're about ready. Let's go to the ring.
All right, so they announced Killer Kyle versus Dirty White Boy for later in the show, and I'll be honest, that was such a forgettable announcement that halfway through the show, I'm like, "What's the main event of this show?" And I forgot about Killer Kyle and the Dirty White Boy, and
Yeah.
yeah. I can say that even after I saw the match, it's still pretty forgettable. But we're getting
I
Chris
thought
Ken.
that was an okay little match.
Yeah, but it's like if I remember this match next week, I'll be
Oh
shocked.
no, I won't. I won't remember it, but I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it either. Just like I'm like, this is one of those weeks where it's like it felt like I don't know that like they threw in the towel. Like there's always that one episode of Smoky Mountain where they're like, oh man, we got a lot of hot shit this week, and then like the next week there's nothing. It's like couldn't we have spread out some hot shit here?
I really wanted this to be the week they're like, hey, Candido, Louis, like 12 minutes, just do what you want. And
Yeah.
that would have been great.
Instead they got like 7, which is still pretty good.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. It wasn't our quarterly 3-star match.
no, it's more like 2.5. But
Yeah.
I actually had to stop and think for a second. I'm like, isn't Candido still the beat the champ? And I even had to ask you, I'm like, isn't Candido still beat the champ? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I guess they're skipping it this week. Then the booker inside me was like, oh my God, I know what they're gonna do. Candido's gonna have this match. He's gonna cheat to win, and then like he's gonna be doing a promo later on and talking about how great he is and yada yada yada. And then somebody, Sandy Scott, Bob Caudle got something in his ear, whatever. Like, hey, we're supposed to do the beat the champ every week. And they're like, oh, I already defended my title. I'm like, well, you defended the U.S. title. You need to defend the beat the champ. And they pull out a name of somebody who then beats Candido for the title. That is not what happened.
That would have been good, though.
Yeah.
That would have been good.
I will say, and I think this is part of it too, like, and I'm not saying he couldn't have done a 12-minute match here, but this is the third show of a 4-show taping, and Candido wrestled twice already, and he's gonna have to wrestle next week because he's to beat the champ. So, like, he's gonna have to have 4 matches on this taping. So it's like, okay, and especially the first two weren't like Tracy was one, and no, Ricky Morton was one, and Dirt wasn't. Did he wrestle White Boy at some point? Anyway, he did not
Yeah.
have the traditional beat the champ enhancement matches. He had some pretty stiff matches already. So it's like, okay, I could see why we didn't book him for 12 minutes.
You
Um,
know,
and
it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, then we had Louis come in for an interview saying that Candido won't come to California for a title match, so he had to come here.
It. So Candido, correct? He is the world heavyweight champion,
Yes, he
and
is.
he is the United States junior heavyweight champion. and
He
he is
is
the champion of television, correct?
of the Smoky Mountain region.
Okay, so if anyone could possibly beat him, it is mathematically most likely to be a junior heavyweight who was wrestling outside of the U.S. and not on Smoky Mountain Television. And we know that while Spiccoli is an American, he was out of the country when the U.S. Junior Heavyweight title tournament took place. So on
Yeah.
paper, you'd have to think Louis Spiccoli, one of the most viable contenders to take down Chris Candido.
Although, since we have no idea what the fuck the weight limit is for the U.S. Junior Heavyweight title. Like, Louis
Well,
Spiccoli, like, at 235, 240 pounds, would you say?
it, Ma- Madonna's not going to date a guy that's over the weight limit. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, well, it's easy when we don't know what the weight limit is. I mean, during the local
It's
promos
not
later, they
about
say
weight
Tracy's.
limits, Arya. It's about
It's
no
about no
limits.
limits. I didn't know it was the X Division. Anyway, Trae, tell us why Louis Spiccoli may be the only person better than Chris Candido.
I had literally just finished explaining that.
Okay, well, I didn't know that that's what it was, or you had a different point of view. Okay. All right. So we now go to our match. It's the triple champion Chris Candido versus Louis Spiccoli. Tammy Fitch sauntered to ringside looking like the gorgeous 21-year-old that she was at the time.
She
How do
was
you think
sauntering.
yes, how do you think she celebrated her 21st birthday in December?
Um, this is a family podcast. I don't want to say
Oh, of course, we're a good, clean Christian podcast, so yeah.
the Adams family.
Yes. Um, Louis ended up crouching on the top rope and took a blonde bombshell. Dutch asked when was the last time we saw that in the US, and I'm like, about 6 months ago when Candido last did it on the TV show. Uh, Dutch and Bob were at each other this week. They both butcher Schuylkill Haven, PA, and then mention that that's near where the groundhog is. And I want it so badly to hear the two of them try to say Punxsutawney.
Poxatuani.
Yes. Apparently,
Okay.
Candido has video evidence that Tracy is really Vito Marinara. Dutch calls Louis a very stocky young man. He went for a monkey flip, but Tammy held Candido. Louis threw himself down, and Candido got the win with a jackknife cradle. A perfectly fine match here on Smoky Mountain TV.
It was. They worked really hard, and this was technically very good. And there were some people in the audience reacting to it. And then, like, all the fans that you can see on the hard camera just sitting on their hands. But, like even in
Yeah.
a crowd like this, there are the handful of people who will react to seeing some cool shit. And luckily, we could hear them. But
Hmm.
nobody was invested in Spicoli, and why would they be in terms of the booking? But this was a good little match, and this was something to do. To I am actually surprised because I like pretty much everything online says that the United States Junior Heavyweight Championship like doesn't really exist after like the end of '93, and so far, at least into January of '94, it is still being defended.
Yep. Um, Yeah, honestly, Louis Spiccoli here, it felt very 83 Mid-South. We're bringing in a guy to lose to one of our pushed guys, but we're not just going to have him come in just to lose. We brought him in last week and he won a match. And now that he's won a match and he's gotten a little bit of promo time, he's announced that he's played a little football. He went and took on Chris Candido for the junior heavyweight title. And I threw that in to try to pop Trae and he no sold it. So,
I'm sorry.
we'll
I'm sorry. My mind. What'd you say? My mind was wandering. What'd you say?
I said we brought in Louis Spiccoli and treated him like a guy from Mid-South in '83. He did some promo time talking about how he played a little football, and
Oh,
then he,
I missed the little football. Okay. Oh, you think Louis played a little football?
oh well, he's not in Mid-South, so probably not. Like it was a
South
prerequisite
doesn't.
to get hired in
This,
Mid-South.
well, I don't think he was wrestling yet when Mid South. Maybe he could have been.
Pro Probably not, since it was like he's only like 22, 23 years old, so he probably wasn't wrestling in Mid-South in '83.
And I'm assuming,
Uh,
like, has he been to Mexico yet at this point?
I believe so, yeah.
I would think so.
I thought he was, but I mean, if not, it's very shortly. Um, so anyway, let's go to a video with WWA President Dennis Coralluzzo, who
Oh
is
boy.
he's no longer a mafia boss, I guess. But let's go to Dennis now.
This is WWA President Dennis Coralluzzo, and I'm here at the Hall of Records in Philadelphia to prove what Chris Candido has been saying all along, that Tracy Smothers is really Vito Marinara from Schuylkill Haven, PA. An associate of mine is now right in the hall at this time copying the birth certificate. He should be here very shortly. Alfonso, you keep that camera on. I paid you for the whole hour. Hey, Vinny, you got the merchandise.
Those slacks aren't easy to pick like they used to be. Is that a camera roll?
Hey, don't worry. Here we go, people. Living proof that Tracy Smothers is really not from Tennessee, right here in black and white.
Dennis, got my utility?
How much are you, Vinny?
$50.
50 bucks?
$50.
You gotta be kidding, Vinny. What are you busting my chops for? I've been good to you all for a long time. You're trying to fleece me. What's the deal here?
Yo, Dennis, I put my parole on the line for you. You know? Don't be a cheap Siciliano.
Ah, gee.
You know?
Hold on here, Vinny. Hey, Vinny, here. Take that.
Well, like a pawn shop?
Hey, buddy, give me a favor. Get 20 bucks. You know, I'm in a jam.
I'll be yours. Gotta go, Dennis.
Vinny, I'll mail it to you, buddy. I'll mail it to you. Hey, officer, he went that way.
Poor that guy. Coralluzzo being a stooge here. So he's at the Hall of Records in Philly.
Such a stooge.
He's literally like, why is he videotaping his crime? Like, he's paying some guy to break into the Hall of Records to steal him Tracy Smothers' birth certificate. And this is what gets funny. Like, how is this proof, by the way, that Tracy Smothers is really Vito Marinara from Schuylkill Haven, PA? Like, well, let's say there is a birth certificate for Vito Marinara of Schuylkill Haven, PA. That by itself is not proof that Vito Marinara is Tracy Smothers. You would need to get the court order showing a name change. You know.
Well, according to your logic, Arya, if they claim that there is no evidence that he is not Vinny whatever from Schuylkill Haven, that is evidence that he is.
I never say that. I just say there's no evidence that it didn't happen. You know?
But what's the implication that is evidence that it did happen?
It's not. It's evidence that it could have happened. Since we don't have definitive proof that it didn't.
No, it's not. It's not evidence that it could have happened. It is a lack of evidence that it happened.
Yes, but it's lack of evidence that it didn't happen. Like, you don't have proof that it didn't happen, which means that there is a chance that it did happen. I love that this is the argument we're now having in the middle of
thing of lack of evidence that it didn't happen. There's like a double negative. It doesn't even make sense logically.
Okay, I know you're not a fan of fake sports, but have you ever watched the videos on Inside the NBA with Shaq being asked to talk about gasoline?
No.
Okay, this is what this is coming to here. Where this is going to be our Shaq gas math. Because Shaq would be like, you have a tank, it costs $80 to fill up if you're at E. But if you wait till it gets to half, you put in 20 and it goes back up to full. And he's like, and I was like, no, you put in 40. It's like, no, it's not 40, it's only put in 20. This has been going on for years with Shaq. This is what it is for us.
By the way, would you believe Louis Spiccoli did wrestle for the UWF? but it was the Herb Abrams UWF.
Well, yeah, I knew that because he was actually one of the more over underneath guys. By the way, I don't know if you ever read Jonathan Papelbon's book, Tortured Ambition, The History of the UWF. That's a good read. I'd recommend it.
Really? I will.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what I finished today. You remember like a while back, I kind of sent you a screenshot of my wrestling books. Like, what should I read next? And you said I thought Justin Roberts' book was pretty good, and I just finished that today.
Nice. Did you enjoy it?
It was. I got a lot of ammo for my Triple H is a douchebag file.
I mean, did you need any more ammo for that? I mean,
Well, I didn't, but I'm trying to build like a Zettelcast, and it's a whole thing. But and the other thing was just reading like his kind of frustration with the way the last, several years of his WWE run. It just like I got to assume that Justin Roberts is living his very best life right now. So glad for him.
yeah, because that came out like well before the AEW run. I think that came out like 2016.
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's
Yeah.
wasn't that how Bradshaw got fired? Well, Bradshaw got encouraged to quit because it came out what a douchebag he was to Justin Roberts, and fans were hijacking SmackDown, chanting "Fire Bradshaw."
I don't remember that. That's phenomenal.
I was actually at one of those shows. That was a show where I stole Rob Gronkowski's power because he showed up to help Mojo Rawley beat Jinder Mahal the week before the Jinder Mahal main event push started, by the way. And he was leaving through the crowd and he slapped two hands. And one was me, noted New England Patriots hater, Arya Whitner. And then the next season he got hurt and basically never really played as well ever again.
Oh,
So coincidence?
I don't.
I think not.
Um,
By the way, I meant to mention this earlier when we were talking about Eric Bischoff, and I think I mentioned his book. I don't know if you ever read Nitro by Guy Evans.
I
Um,
need to.
it,
It
it's
is
a
on the list.
it's a good book. It has issues, and he actually came out with a sequel called Beyond Nitro that I bought that I haven't had a chance to read yet. But Nitro is a good book, and part of the problem was he did all these interviews, and that it was fucking awesome. He does all these interviews with all these people behind the scenes you've never heard from before, but he doesn't really edit them. Like at one point, he kept in this long-winded back and forth conversation between two guys about whether or not Ted Turner was a wrestling fan. And then at the end, a third party chimed into the conversation or the narrative. They basically said he doesn't believe Ted Turner could tell you who the world champion was, but he was a wrestling fan. I'm like, that was the most believable part of this. Like I could have skipped 3 pages and just read that part and be like, I believe that,
You
you know?
know, it. So I haven't read it. I have heard that at times it almost reads like a rebuttal of the death of WCW by a
Oh yeah.
guy who's just pretty much like Bischoff's stooge. And
I
I have no trouble believing that the guy who is Bischoff's like author stooge doesn't know too much about doing the work of a historian.
Now I don't doubt that he's Bischoff Stooge. I didn't know that or not. But yeah, this was definitely the rebuttal to the death of WCW because even the way it was promoted, I remember was like, I'm not using anonymous, dirt sheet sources. I'm talking to 115 people who were there, man. Like,
Well,
okay.
we know that the look only one of those has my name in the acknowledgments, and we know that that's got to be
Yep.
the superior book.
Yep. My dead name's in it too.
Oh.
Um, in
Is that
case
weird?
any
Is that like is
it
that still
it it
cool or does it suck?
it sucks. So,
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I mean, they sure as hell didn't know. RD didn't know when he credited me in 2014 that I'd one day fluttered out of the closet.
Well,
And to be fair, I'm sure he didn't ask you either. I don't know. Did Dave or sorry, did Brian or RD credit you? I don't remember.
RD. It was
Okay.
RD.
Yeah, RD didn't ask me about it either. I just opened up the book and saw my name. Um, by the way, now that I know that I kind of helped taking this well off the thing here, but yeah. So I did note that this is a year before Bill Alfonso showed up in ECW as the representative of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission. So the referee named the cameraman named Alfonso in Philadelphia, and then the whistleblowing. Coincidence. Like, especially with Corluzo, it doesn't seem like it would be a coincidence because, Corluzo and Heyman butted heads, but coincidence.
Well, Fonzie was like refereeing for the WWF and everybody at the time still, right?
I don't know if he was at this point because I know like Johnny Gonzalez was gone, so he may still have been there or may not.
Okay, this is dumb, but I have a running joke in my notes because I'm a fucking weirdo who has running jokes in my notes that nobody but me will read, and I will always note when I notice that Bill Alfonso is the referee, and he's been the referee for a lot of this shit that I've watched in 1993.
Okay. All right. So it's funny because we wasted a lot of time, even though there's some really good shit we're about to talk about. So we got like an 8-minute segment that I broke up into 3 parts. Let's go first to the first part of the Jim Cornette promo, and he's going to pitch it to a promo with Terry and Dory Funk.
All right, fans, with us here right now at ringside, Jim Cornette. Jim, let's talk about Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Bloody Sunday, Bloody Sunday in Knoxville. It's going to be blood all over the place. I think a lot of it's going to be yours.
Don't say that, Bob. You're a very lurid individual. You're a very vulgar person. I'm going to talk about something today that I've been waiting a long time for. It's the Texas death match between the turbulent Texan Terry Funk and the Bullet, otherwise known as Bob Armstrong. It's going to take place February 13th in Knoxville, and there's a lot riding on this, and rather than me tell you all about it right now, I want you to hear some words from the master of the Texas death match, Terry Funk. You take a listen to this right now.
The Funk family, the Funk brood is coming to Knoxville. And I will wrestle Bob Armstrong in a Texas death match. Brother, oh brother, tell them the rules of a Texas death match.
This is your kind of match. This is a Texas death match. Falls don't count in a Texas death match. There can be 1 or 100. There's no stopping the match for any reason. Falls can take place anywhere. And number 1, there is no stopping the match because of blood. So if you people can't stand blood, my suggestion is you don't look toward that ring because Bob Armstrong's blood will be splattered all over Knoxville. It's a Texas death match. The last man standing is the winner. And it's going to be the king of the Texas death match is my brother, Terry Funk.
Why are you going to be there, brother? It's not to interfere in any match, is it?
No, no, no. I'm going to be there. Bob Armstrong remembers me from a long time ago, and I know Armstrong. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to protect Jim Cornette. I'm going to protect Jim Cornette from all of Bob Armstrong's illegitimate relatives that might be around there.
Oh, yes, I am coming to Knoxville. And I know a lot about Knoxville. Yes, I do. On a windy day with a wind blowing from the east, I can whiff and I can sniff and I can smell Knoxville all the way out here in the Panhandle of Texas. And what does it smell like? It smells like butt crack, Tennessee. That's right. It smells like butt crack, Tennessee. And let me tell you something. It also smells like fear. And what kind of fear does it smell like? It smells like, fear smells like warmed over death. Oh, is it Bob Armstrong shaking under his covers, covered up thinking the funks are coming? Or is it Bob Armstrong standing in front of a hot fireplace? Do you understand? Warmed over death. Are you that old, Armstrong? My brother and I have a date in Knoxville.
It's actually kind of funny how at the same time he's cutting these crazy promos for Smoky Mountain, how he's coming to bloody up Bob Armstrong. He's talking about how Knoxville, smells and he can smell it from Amarillo. He's kindly old Uncle Terry in ECW.
I'm a little behind. He's been crazy old Uncle Terry lately.
Well, he's babyface Uncle Terry at the very least.
I mean, look, things are bad enough that he went to find a few good men, and all he could find were the bad breed. So it's a tough road to hoe in fucking Philadelphia. Goddamn, Dennis Coralluzzo's influences all over the place.
I mean, maybe if he shows up with Louis Spiccoli and Jason West, we'll see that the Smoky Mountain influences are working for him.
So are you ready? Are you ready for my super deep cut inside joke that's just for you?
Sure.
So Dory is coming to Knoxville to protect Jim Cornette from Bob Armstrong's illegitimate relatives. And I assume that means Joel and Eric Watts.
I didn't write Eric, but I wrote Joel.
This is a very silly conversation that we had over Facebook Messenger the other day.
Yes. We should have mentioned, we didn't mention on the air, I didn't mention on the air because I thought about Joel. Do you think Joel Armstrong is the illegitimate son of Bullet Bob and he got abandoned and had to get adopted by Bill Watts?
I bet that's what happened.
Yeah. I wrote, Dory won't be there to interfere, but will protect JC from all of Bob Armstrong's illegitimate relatives, Brad, Brian, Scott, Steve, and Joel. Now, Amarillo is towards eastern Texas, right?
Amarillo is West Texas. West Texas. Northwest-ish Texas.
So who's closer to Knoxville, you or them?
Me?
Okay. Can you smell Knoxville?
Well, I'm so close to Louisiana that never mind.
All right. So that was Terry and Dory Funk. So we're going to go back to Jim Cornette, but we're going to segue because, people need equal time on this show. And so we got to go to the Bullet, who's standing around without a shirt on for some reason.
All right, and we just heard from Terry Funk. What about equal time now?
What about equal time? You've been working with these politicians too long. Let me explain something right now. There is no equal time as far as Terry Funk. He's the king of the Texas Death Match. His father, the late great Dory Funk Sr., invented the Texas Death Match, and Terry Funk has had 1 million of them. He knows all the ins and all the outs. And Bullet Bob Armstrong is going to... What do you want? What?
I want to hear from the Bullet. The Bullet's probably got something to say also.
Who cares?
You know, since I signed this contract to wrestle Terry Funk in a Texas Death Match every month, everybody's called me and said, Bullet, you made a mistake. The man's never been beaten. Well, although he beat Bob Armstrong and he had to leave Knoxville, he's not beat the Bullet yet. Texas Death Match or not, I know his daddy invented it, and I know Cornette, your evil mind, has put that last little clause in there that says, if I lose the match, the Bullet's gone, Bob Armstrong's gone, and you're going to run rampant in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And not only that, if I lose, I'm supposed to crawl across the ring and kiss your feet. Well, brother, I got something for you to kiss, and I ain't talking grits. I'll never do that. I'll take my last breath, like I said before, on God's green earth before I do that. So you come on down to that Civic Coliseum. I'm tired of fooling around. I've been lucky, no doubt about it. You brought in some big guns in some way. I found a way around it, and I'm still here. I'm still fighting for Bob Armstrong's spot as commissioner. But I know I'm going to run out of body parts before your mother runs out of money. So let's get it all done in one night. Let's do it in Knoxville, and let's do it once and for all.
Wow, I was really behind there. So short, simple, sweet, to the point by the bullet. And it's funny because, like, the first time I watched it, like, I was listening to it, but I wasn't really looking at him. So I thought he was holding a microphone in his hand. It was just some rolled up paper.
Well, the contract that he was forced to sign.
I assume that's his copy, and he's not just like hanging on to it, trying to pull Roman Reigns at Payback a few years ago and not signing it until minutes before the match time.
I think that they could have protested the validity of that decision. Can Bray Wyatt's estate protest that decision and retroactively get Roman's record Universal title reign invalidated?
Expunged from the record. I think we might be past the statute of limitations.
God damn it.
Yeah. It was up to, plus, I mean, he had a lot of issues at the time. He was the Fiend Bray Wyatt at the time. And I mean, I guess Braun Strowman didn't really have a claim to it, but I mean, he could have, even as the challenger of the match, that it was, unfair, and he probably could have sued WWE and Adam Pearce for allowing it.
He's too much of a bootlicker for that.
I wonder if Adam Pearce ever started washing his ass. Every time I ever think about him, I think about the story of the Punk Joe Shoot interview when everyone was wiping their ass and putting it in someone's gear, and he had.
I hate so much that I immediately knew what you were talking about.
This is like 20 years ago, and poor Adam Pearce being remembered for having, a shitty ass.
That's one of the all-time great Shoot interviews. That was the homicide trying to pee on CM Punk story that we referenced several weeks ago.
It's my dream to wrestle Kojima.
All Japan, Kojima.
Oh God. Hey, it happened before. Apparently, I wonder if we got Homicide on the show, we should ask him. When you get drunk, do you still try to pee on people?
I mean, I don't think he was drunk. In his mind that he was trying to pee on people. He was just too drunk to realize that he wasn't where he needed to be peeing.
So, I gotta pee, I gotta pee. Okay. So I gotta tell you this. When I originally were timestamping this thing, I was gonna put the Bullets promo with Jim Cornette's promo as one long little 4-minute thing. Since we went 4 minutes with Terry Funk, just do 4 straight minutes. And then Jim Cornette did something. And the Smoky Mountain production team did something. And it was so awful, so wrong, that I could not lump this in with the Bullets. Let's go to Jim Cornette for one of the most wrong things we've ever seen on this television program.
All right, fans, it's all going to come down February 13th in Knoxville.
Let me just say one thing to all these defective genetic morons out here. I know you love the Rock and Roll Express, and I know you love Bullet Bob Armstrong, and I know you love all these other people, but when I'm talking, I expect to be afforded a little respect. I expect for people to shut up and listen to what I've got to say. Bob Armstrong, I've waited for this for a long time, brother, and I'm going to make the most of it. Texas Deathmatch, February 13th, Knoxville. Bob Armstrong against Terry Funk, and everything's riding on it. He's put it all on the line. Roll the dice. Sure, if the Bullet beats Terry Funk, then that means that Bob Armstrong is the commissioner of Smoky Mountain Wrestling again. I know all these idiots would love that. But if the Bullet loses, if Bob Armstrong loses to Terry Funk, then, brother, you've got to take that mask off, Bullet, and you've got to show your face this time. And you have to leave Smoky Mountain Wrestling forever, and your last official act will be to get down on your hands and your stinking knees. Yeah, that's exactly right. And crawl across that ring and kiss my smelly 2-week-old ain't been washed feet, Bob Armstrong. Because I can't hurt you. I can't put you out of business. I can't injure you so bad that you won't come back because I've tried. But how do you harm a prideful man? You hit him in his pride. And all the people in Knoxville that have supported you for 25 years, all your family, all your friends, all your fans will watch you, Bob Armstrong, kiss the feet of Jim Cornette in the middle of the Knoxville Civic Coliseum February 13th. And if you want to get out of doing that, you've got to beat Terry Funk in a Texas death match, and that's a task that can't no man come up with, no matter how bad they really are.
Okay. Trae, do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
You didn't see this? So Jim Cornette, you heard him talk about genetic defective morons. Okay, I don't know who to point the finger at. The cameraman shot it, but Cornette kept it in the show. They cut to an obviously mentally challenged, slow individual in the crowd and kept it on them for like 15 seconds while Cornette's talking about defective genetic morons.
Give me the time code and give me the time code.
1703 is the start.
1703. Okay, it's gonna give me a minute to navigate to it. What day is the 29th? 17 what?
1703 is the start of the promo. And while you're looking that up, he reiterates the stipulations of the Sunday Bloody Sunday match. So by the end of this 8 minutes, you saw Terry and Dory Funk telling you the stipulations.
Oh, it's a boy with Down syndrome. Oh my God. What the fuck? Oh, Jesus.
Yep.
Well, you know what? That's shitty, but hey, that fella's having a good time at wrestling.
He was, no doubt. Do you think though when he watched the show back a few weeks later, he was confused as to why he was on TV?
The very first WWF house show that I went to, WWE house show, it was in like 2005, and there was a group of folks there from one of the local hospitals, and there was this one fella that was really into it, and I just remember that he kept yelling, "Pop him again!" So like 20 years later, I could text my best friend right now, just pop him again, and he would still pop.
I remember my first house show in 92. They had a high energy versus the Beverly Brothers match. And then they had a match a few weeks later on Primetime Wrestling. And I could swear it was the show we were at because they had the exact same match with the exact same finish as the one we saw. And I was like, oh my God, this is the show we were at. And my mother's like, no, it's not.
That's funny. It's funny.
And I'm like, it had to be because they did the exact same ending there. So in the 8 minutes, Terry Funk told you the stipulations. Bullet Bob reiterated the drastic measures that had to go about to get this match, and then Jim Cornette bragged about the final stipulations. Now I have to ask because I'm sure, like I think we can all know who fucking wins this match. But I remember the Kiss My Foot match in 95 with Lawler where Brett bent Lawler's face and foot together and made him kiss his own feet. Do you think Jim Cornette's that bendable? I kind of assume that's where this is. I kind of assume that's where this is going, but I don't know if that'll happen or not.
The Jim Herd years was when he had to switch from Pepsi to Sprite, right?
Yes.
Oh, he might have been bendy, and I don't know. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah. So while Jim went backstage to take a breath in between promos, because yeah, the very next thing is another Jim Cornette promo. Um, we saw a local plug for a show in a city right hand to God, apparently, called Red Jacket, West Virginia, which is apparently a real place that they will really be doing a house show on February 18th in the gym there.
Look,
And
I've driven through such places as Dry Prong, Louisiana, and Gun Control City, Texas. I didn't even blink at Red Jacket, Virginia.
so they drew 201 people to this show on the 18th, which may not
Oh,
sound like much. Admittedly, it doesn't sound like a whole lot. The
well, what's the
population in
population?
the population in Red Jacket is 539. So more than
I
20% of the town came out to the Smoky Mountain Wrestling show.
I remember, I think Jericho said some of those spot shows, there would be more people in the crowd than were in the town population, because there are all these people out in the mountains that they hadn't counted in the census and shit that would, but they wouldn't come to be counted in the census, but they'd come for wrestling.
There you go. I wonder if the strange Kentucky, I guess it's West Virginia, so it would be strange Kentucky people, but still.
I
Um,
bet there were some strange West Virginia people too.
so apparently, and I was kind of joking about Red Jacket, a town of 500 people, having an elementary school because I figured they'd get bused to the nearest place. Apparently, they also have a fucking high school. Like, Jesus
How many
Christ. Like,
how many people was your graduating high school class?
my graduating high school class was bigger than this town. It was 802.
Oh, really? That's,
Yeah.
m- Mine was 170-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, by the way, they've changed their team name, Red Jacket High School. It used to be the Red Jacket Indians, but yeah, that's no
The Red
longer
Jacket
allowed.
sports team.
The Red Jacket team of football, no, they're the Cardinals now, apparently.
That's pretty good. No, what would have been funny was if they, there's I don't know if they're a breed of bee, but a breed of little stingy asshole things called yellow jackets. And what if they were the Red
Yep,
Jacket yellow jackets?
that would be tremendous. Um, I actually I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, and again, I know you don't like fake sports, but I liked the name Washington Team of Football. I wish they would have kept that instead of going to the Commanders. Like I thought
I
that was a
I like that better too. My favorite was some like I think it was like an Onion article or something where they changed the name to the DC Redskins.
that is changing the name for all. My joke where because they lost to the South Park guys registered a company called Washington Redskins.
Wow.
Oh God. Um, Coddle then pitches it to a video of the Bruise Brothers Moondogs match at Christmas Chaos, where they brawled all backstage, and then says that Sunday Bloody Sunday will be the bloodiest cage match ever. And I
Huh.
gotta say, I'm kind of like I'm starting to question this over reliance on gimmick matches. Just because like yeah, it's good to have a blow off once in a while, and like especially like Dirty White Boy, Primetime Brian Lee, it's time for a big fucking blow off. But it's like at that point, doesn't it take down all these stipulations a peg when we're gonna have the bloodiest chain match ever, the bloodiest cage match ever? We're gonna have a Texas death match with loads of blood. We're gonna have the football helmet on a pole match. It's like it seems a little overkill at this point.
I I think to some degree that's the plight of a small territory. You know, you don't have as many guys going in and out. You've got to lengthen your programs. You kind of got to, you know.
And I think this is the show that Jericho and Storm come in for to see how Smoky Mountain is. Can only imagine what they thought. All right, so Jim Cornette walked backstage, took a few deep breaths, and then he walked back out for Down and Dirty with Dutch. But first, we're going to get a promo from the Furnaces, and then more Jim Cornette.
The wildest cage match of all time, fans. February 13th, Sunday, Bloody Sunday in Knoxville. Now, we'll be right back after this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Down and Dirty with Dutch. I'm Howard Stern, and man, did I sucker you people in. My special guests are on their way to the ring right now, but till they get here, I got a special interview I'd like to show you from two guys who think they're real great. They thought they were great football players, and now they think they're great wrestlers. Doug and Mike Furnace. Watch this, and then we'll talk to my special guest.
Bub, take a look at this and tell me what it is.
Well, that is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. It looks like, you know, all the country people out there, it looks like what you use out there by the outhouse when you run out of corn cobs, and everybody knows what those are for. That looks like an Alabama cheerleader or Jim Cornette's backside. I can't remember. I just can't stand that disgusting stuff. Oh, let's get on it worse than that.
You know, let me tell you something. February 13th, if you think for a minute that two players from University of Tennessee is going to wear this in the middle of the ring, there's no way.
It ain't going to happen. We're going after this thing right here, and we're going to do the right thing with it when we get there.
And that's knock some knots on some heads. And Cornette, you stick that little beanie head of yours through there, and I will put a major dent in it.
All right, my special guest here on Down and Dirty with Dutch. Right now, Jim Cornette and the Heavenly Bodies. And Jim, I told the people you had a very important announcement, and you'd like to tell them right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And before I do that, I'd like to say one thing about what we just saw, those two dumb jock mushmouth University of Tennessee volunteer football players. The Furnace is February 13th in Knoxville. It's the Tennessee-Alabama match. There's going to be a UT football helmet on top of a 10-foot pole. Whoever gets it can use it any way they want. And if the Furnaces lose, then, brother, they got to stand in the middle of the ring. You know, I love to humiliate people because you got an athlete, that's the worst injury that he could have is humiliation in front of his fans. The Furnaces will have to stand in the middle of the ring, and they'll have to put on University of Alabama sweatshirts and proclaim them the greatest college football team of all time. And we're going to beat the Furnaces, and we're going to humiliate them just like Bob Armstrong. And then, here's the announcement that the world has been waiting for. It's obvious that the Rock and Roll Express are out of their minds. It's obvious that Ricky Morton's a psychotic. It's obvious the whole family and Robert Gibson, too, are nuts. They're trying to kill me for no apparent purpose. I have gone and I have gotten an injunction. My attorneys met with the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Board of Directors, and it's basically this. They can't be coming out here disrupting television, can't be disrupting interviews. I've got an injunction. If the Rock and Roll Express attack me, even lay one finger on me outside a sanctioned match, then they'll both be suspended indefinitely. Out of here. They won't get their revenge.
So what you're saying, if they touch you outside a sanctioned Smoky Mountain Wrestling match, they're out of here.
That's exactly. I couldn't do anything about what happens in the course of a match, but they can't disrupt any more of our interviews. They can't disrupt any more of my things that I do over there at the set, and they can't attack me outside a sanctioned match between the Heavenly Bodies and the Rock and Roll Express. Now I want to say one more thing. I don't know why that Ricky Morton is so upset about his father nearly being blind in one eye or whatever's the matter with him. Because after all, I know Paul Morton. I've known him for a long time. The guy has been blind, staggering, falling down drunk for the past 25 years. He's got a drinking problem is what he's got. Yeah. He's a staggering, falling down drunk, and he's been blind for... Whoa!
Wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute.
Go ahead and hit him! Hit him just one time, and then we'll be ready, Morton. Go ahead, touch him just one time. Hit him! Come on, big boy! Touch him! One time!
Okay, it looks like Cornette is...
One time, Morton, unless it's a match between us and you. One time in your history.
Well, fans, it looks like Cornette is begging Ricky Morton. I'm stepping back out of the way now.
You are a coward! One time and you'll be gone, Jack! It looks like Jimmy Cornette is begging Ricky Morton to come into the ring. Ricky Morton being restrained. Here he comes. Wait a minute. Here he comes again. If he touches him now, we got an injunction.
Okay. So Trae, I know we've talked about your post high school collegiate experiences. Um, what university did you attend?
My undergraduate degree, I attended the University of Arkansas at Monticello.
Nice, nice. So it's not as obviously not as famous as University of Tennessee is, but you would say you got a good education there, wouldn't you?
I would be proud to put my undergraduate education up against anybody's.
Nice. So now, obviously not going to a big state school like the University of Tennessee. Do you think if I showed you a picture of a cheerleader and a picture of Jim Cornette's butthole that you could tell the difference?
Hey, so I actually did also I did graduate work at a couple of larger state universities. So maybe I have an unfair advantage, but I believe I could identify a Division One cheerleader and not mistake her for Jim Cornette's rectum.
Now, keep in mind, we've never actually seen Jim Cornette's butthole because while he has embarrassed
Well, you
himself,
haven't.
m- m- okay, well that implies that you have, by the way. Um, but while JC has embarrassed himself many a times on pro wrestling television, he's never completely dropped trow. Um, and I'm just going to assume Trae was sleeping with Stacy, and he's one of those people that
Hey,
uh,
I might
years
have
later.
I might have worked OVW in '03. You don't know.
There you go. But poor Stacy. I'm
Okay,
sorry if you're listening to this.
I'm
Um,
sorry, everybody. And look, I don't kink shame anybody. So,
yeah,
not Doug. What's the other guy's name? Mike.
Mike,
Mark. Is it Mike or Mark? I wrote
Mike.
Mark. Okay, Mike Furn. Mike Furness has a funny voice. And if he has something to say, he can deliver the line in a funny way. And it makes me what like did Mike Furness miss his calling as like a character actor? Like he sucks at wrestling promos, but if he could remember lines, he could be a really funny character actor.
Maybe, maybe this is what he was meant to be. I
Maybe.
like that if I search for Mike Furness wrestler, the first result is Doug Furness.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Um, okay. So let me see here. Oh yeah. So for they by the way, they bought a University of Alabama sweatshirt just for this just for this skit apparently.
Yeah,
And
this wasn't this was like a Walmart one though. This wasn't like a high quality jersey.
no, no, no. This is just, your $10 Walmart special
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
So we go back to Down and Dirty with Dutch. He basically ignores that the furnaces exist. I mean, he mentions them, but I mean, he's got far more important things to worry about. And that said, he has filed a federal injunction that says somehow I don't know that the courts do these levels of injunctions here. I would think the injunction would be that they wouldn't have to defend the tag titles at Sunday Bloody Sunday after they already had a match earlier in the card. But I guess Jim wasn't thinking that far ahead. But anywho, the new stipulation is that if the Rock and Roll Express lay one finger on Jim Cornette when they are not in a sanctioned match, then the Rock and Roll Express are hereby banned from Smoky Mountain Wrestling forever.
Okay, here's the problem that I have with that.
How
Um,
can, why would the courts have such an injunction over a private
well,
company and who they decide to employ?
clearly this is all tangled up with the the state athletic commissions, and then you got the principle of judicial review as established in Marbury v. Madison in 1803. And anyway, what the fuck was I talking about? I had
I don't
something I
even
was
know
going
at
to
this point.
say at some point in here. Look, okay, he's able to get a federal injunction that the Rock and Roll Express can't touch him outside of a sanctioned match, but it's a sanctioned match between the bodies and the Rock and Roll Express. So
Yeah,
Cornette wasn't able to negotiate that he had to be a legal participant in the match. Like that just seems like common sense.
okay, that seemed like one of those weird things you get the courts to agree to, and hopefully Ricky Morton, didn't read that far. And and is it only Ricky Morton or is it both Rock and Roll Express? Because Robert Gibson seemed perfectly fine with this, announcement. He was busy yanking Ricky Morton away. And also,
You think
this is almost a Jay and Mark Briscoe situation. If Ricky Morton went in there and punched Jim Cornette, does Robert Gibson now lose his job too?
uh more importantly, you raise what I think is a more interesting point. You think Punky likes to read. You think Ricky's a big reader. What you think Ricky was reading Goosebumps in the 90s?
Oh, I can't imagine he wouldn't be. That was a fine book series.
Yeah. So I gather that it is specifically it refers to the Rock and Roll Express can't touch him or well, they didn't clarify whether as to the question that if that hothead Ricky Morton was to break this injunction, if that would also result in Robert Gibson losing his job. But I got to assume that knowing what happens later in '95, that Robert would have been allowed to stay no matter what kind of shit Ricky got involved in.
True that. And poor end of '95 shit. But I don't remember what the hell I was gonna say. Also, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So they can't beat up Jim Cornette. Okay. Um, Nowhere in that says they couldn't punch the Heavenly Bodies in the face.
Well, those sneaky heavenly bodies. I'm sure Robert just knows that if he lets Ricky in, that even if he didn't go after Cornette, that those bodies would have maneuvered Cornette into position to be accidentally struck, and then they would have claimed that poor Ricky had violated the court order.
So let's say there is a non-match brawl happening between Ricky and Robert and Jimmy and Dr. Tom. And let's say Jim Cornette assaults Ricky Morton from behind. He thwacks him with his racket repeatedly. And then Ricky Morton, to defend himself, shoves Cornette away, strikes him, does whatever. And this is after Cornette has just waylaid him and assaulted him. How would a firing hold up in court?
Well, by the letter of the law, I think that Cornette would have a case there, but I would hope that the judges involved would have looked specifically at the situation and maybe made a more nuanced choice. Now, here's the question: let's just say that it's we have a singles match, and it's Jimmy Del Rey against Ricky Morton, and Cornette gets on the apron and he hits he hits Punky with the tennis racket. Can Ricky deck him then? Because he was very specifically, it had to be a sanctioned match between the Rock and Roll Express and the Heavenly Bodies.
See, I was even going to say one better. Ricky Morton and Jimmy Del Rey are wrestling, and Ricky Morton just like stops, rolls out of the ring, and punches Jim Cornette in the face. Like, well, we're in a sanctioned match. I can punch you now.
But when they are in a sanctioned match, as
It would
soon
have to be a
as
tag team match.
well, it would have to be after they finished beating on Ricky, which seems to always happen. I don't know why, But after he
Ricky,
tags out and Robert gets that energy boost, that at that point Ricky could just go and fuck up Jim Cornette because it's during a match.
Ricky is like Greg the Hammer Valentine. He doesn't get going until 15, 20 minutes into the match.
No, he
Um,
can't. He can't do anything if he hasn't been beaten on for 10 minutes.
yes. So that leads us to The Rock. Oh, by the way, this is a wrestling show. It's now time for the second match on the show. More than 30 minutes into the show, minus commercials or plus commercials. Or actually, it is minus commercials. And it's the Rock and Roll Express versus the Jasons, Hurd and West. Rock and Roll must have been watching 84 Mid South too, because they won with a heart attack as well.
Yes,
Huh.
yes.
Actually, they didn't win with the heart
thought the same
attack.
thing. No, they didn't.
They
Well,
hit the heart.
they hit the heart
They hit the
attack and the double drop kick in one.
Yes.
On Jason Hurd. Jason Hurd
Yes.
pinned again. His father must be very, very ashamed.
Yes. He got him a sponsorship with Ruse just for this match, and apparently it didn't work out for him. I noted Robert didn't even take off his duster.
No, he
You know.
didn't.
Let's now go to a Rock and Roll Express promo, because that's one thing the show is lacking. It's promo time.
All right, fans, here they are, the Rock and Roll Express. Rick, I got to tell you, you can tell that your anger carried right over into that bout, and I think you was trying everything in your power to get to Jim Cornette.
Well, Bob, this goes out to everybody that thinks they know everything about professional wrestling. You see, this right here involved my dad. That means family. That means blood's a lot thicker than water. It means it's personal. You see, Jimmy Cornette, I don't care. You got an injunction against me, but you see, we got matches coming up with you. And we're going to walk through your heavenly bodies because I'm going to get to you. I'm going to get to you, Jimmy Cornette. I'm sick and tired of you putting down all these fans, putting down my family personally, and then touching my family. Oh, get it. There's a time and place for a thing. And Jimmy Cornette, bet your ass on it, brother. I'm going to get to you.
There's a time and a place for the thing.
When people say words, they usually mean something by it.
Yes. May not have been the strongest promo there by Punky, but still better than anything that Hoot could have come out with.
Yeah, that's fair to say, I think.
Yeah. So he's tired of Jim Cornette talking about him, his family, and touching his family. So please, Ricky, on the doll, point to where Jim Cornette touched your family. Now let's go to a quick promo by our Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion, Primetime Brian Lee, and Tammy Fitch.
All right, fans, it's going to be a wild day. Sunday, Bloody Sunday in Knoxville on February 14th. These two right here are going to have a lot to do with it that day.
I cannot believe this is actually happening. Not only do we have a chain match with the Dirty White Boy, but Ron Wright is coming back, and we crippled him, and he shouldn't be back, and it's just not fair. Brian's a wrestler. He should have a wrestling match, not one of these barbaric, stupid chain matches, and I'm going to get blood all over my clothes, and I don't know what to do because
Blood? What do you... Clothes?
Yeah!
Tammy, that's my blood. I might get killed in this match. It's a chain match. What are you talking about your clothes? I can't. You're my manager. I can't even believe this is happening to me.
It's not my fault.
Well, whose fault is it? You're
not my fault.
I'll tell you what, Dirty White Boy, it's somebody's fault, and I'm gonna put all the blame on you. I'm gonna see by February 13th, I'm gonna take you out, and you probably won't even make it to that date. Come on, Tammy. I can't believe this is going on.
Sunday.
All right, so Tammy's very worried that she might get blood on her clothes.
I really, really love Brian Lee's reaction to that. Just how fucking blood clothes. That's my blood.
Oh Lord, poor primetime Brian Lee. He's finally realizing what he's getting himself into here.
Prima donna Brian Lee.
Yep. He said he's going to take Dirty White Boy out by February 13th. Do you think he buys White Boy a nice dinner?
I would hope so. I mean, that'd be very rude not to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What do you think the White Boy is into? Like, what's fine dining for the Dirty White Boy? Like maybe Red Lobster?
Are you implying that Red Lobster isn't fine dining?
notice that that's on the lower scale of fine dining. I mean,
Oh,
does he? I mean,
Richie Pants, Rich McGee over here.
it looks like he'd enjoy a nice trip to Olive Garden. Get all the unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Um, he
But,
did not get into he did not get into the shape he's in by working out and eating right with Tracy Smothers.
I'm a shrimp fettuccine Alfredo man. And that we've talked about the show how I'm not a big soup person.
Yes.
The chicken gnocchi
Gnocchi.
soup at Olive Garden is a big exception. I'm a big fan of that soup in particular.
I'm a fan of their minestrone. It's
Yeah,
good
it's
shit.
good too.
And then of course you always got I know this you probably don't do this, probably the wife does. You got to bring the big purse so you can fill it up with bread. Like, oh man, we're out of bread. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know why there's
Uh,
grease stains on my purse all of a sudden. We want more bread. Uh, so then we get Dirty White Boy with the Dirty White Girl versus Killer Kyle. And I seem to ask this every time we see Killer Kyle lately. Why isn't Jim Cornette out with his man anymore?
right?
Um,
Poor.
Dutch, Dutch is wondering what's going on with Tammy. She showed up earlier today with Candido, and now she's arguing with primetime Brian Lee. I mean, she does jump from man to man a lot.
What are you implying?
I just that she jumps from man to man. She managed 3 straight WWF Tag Team Champions, which is a
Yeah.
difficult feat to accomplish.
Now, we talked about using your purse for breadsticks. Have you ever loaded your purse to assault other women with?
I have not put a brick deposit into my purse in
Where
case.
does it where does that rank on the list of like improvements in your quality of life when you transition that holy shit I can carry a purse now?
It it's nice, but at the same time, they take away pockets from all your clothes, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm convinced that the handbag industry is behind that because if they gave us fucking pockets, we wouldn't really need to carry purses all the time.
It's so cute when a girl's dress has pockets because she's so
Yes.
excited and she's like, "Look, it
Yes.
has pockets."
Yes. I like that's one of the things Aubrey and I bonded over was dresses with pockets because every
Yeah.
time a girl's wearing a dress with pockets, we all have the same pose. Both hands in the pockets, one foot's kind of stuck
Wow.
out. And it's like, and any time we meet a girl who comments on your dress, you're like, and the best part is it has pockets.
As a married man, I'm well acquainted with the pose.
Yep. I have said that if I ever get married, my wedding dress will have pockets.
Oh,
So,
phenomenal.
yes, yes. By the way, I'll wait till we get to the end of this match. So Dutch said we won't see a lot of suplees in this match. Why not? You're telling me Killer Kyle and Dirty White Boy don't know how to do a suplee?
Yeah, but it's not
Uh,
like it's not like a Steiner Brothers Hase and Sasaki kind of soup plate match.
no,
You
but
think Dutch saw the Steiners against Hase and Sasaki?
I think it's possible. And then he's like, "Well, this is no Killer Kyle versus Dirty White Boy."
This was a
Um,
fun little scrap between two bad dudes. This was
I,
a little bit of the Vinny V special, a mean guy match.
I was gonna say this was very much a mean guy match. I did think though the most exciting part of the match was Bob and Dutch both plugging the personal appearance line and Dutch screaming out the number.
Okay, so the fact that they read the Pam plug, but there was no Chiron, does that mean that Killer Kyle isn't banging Pam?
I don't know. I don't foresee Killer Kyle doing a lot of banging. I just picture him like he leaves the ring, he puts his bowler and his jacket back on, and he just walks back to his hotel room where he takes off his bowler and his jacket and goes to sleep.
I imagine him getting out of the shower in his clothes and just putting the bowler back on.
We're now picturing Killer Kyle's personal life.
Oh,
This week on the Smoky Mountain Show, Killer Kyle takes a shower.
that's what we need. We need a Bill Rathke moment here in Smoky Mountain.
Oh my God, that was the greatest thing ever. Bill Rathke, I don't think has ever been on the show since. By the way,
Oh,
can we since we didn't have to set the time,
oh,
can we put Bill Rathke in the something else hall of something else for taking a
yes,
shower on World Class TV?
yes,
Okay. When
absolutely.
was that? That was like November, right?
Probably. I could probably look back and find it.
Oh God, it's 2025 for taking a shower.
October 8th, 1983.
Yeah, I just love that you had that ready to go.
Well, I have software that I can search, so if I remember some of the words in the block, so I just searched Bill Rathke shower, and I wrote the line "OMG, Bill Rathke in the shower." Oh, I
Oh
watched this
Lord.
back half a dozen times, and my wife came to check on me because she couldn't tell if I was laughing or crying.
Both.
Yeah.
White Boy used the top rope crossbody, and Primetime Brian Lee kind of missed his cue because White Boy could not just beat Killer Kyle, who's like on the show so infrequently. I keep forgetting he's still part of the company, but he couldn't just beat Killer Kyle. So Primetime Brian Lee had to run in for the disqualification. White Boy punched both men in the face repeatedly. Tammy hit White Girl, and Candido ran down, smacking White Boy with Killer Kyle's violin case, which, by the way, we did establish 95 episodes ago that all that's in Killer Kyle's violin case is a roll of athletic tape.
He could have put
Tracy ran
something
down
else
for
in
the.
it since then.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was a pretty decent sized roll of athletic tape, so he might need that much room for it.
What if
Um,
uh what if Killer Kyle had been the Toru Yano of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and he just like used
it,
athletic tape to duct tape people to tape people to the guardrail and get them counted out.
if Killer Kyle ever shrugs his shoulders like Yano, I will declare Killer Kyle my new favorite wrestler of all time.
So you missed the best part of the that wonky little finish was that Dirty White Boy clearly going up to the top rope for a crossbody, and Bob says, "Is this the Bucksnort Blaster?" No, Bob, and you should know that.
I like the funny part is I heard that and I did not even like process it. Like it didn't even occur to me why would he be doing the Bucksnort Blaster from the top rope? It's a
Which would be
fucking choke
cool.
slam.
Yeah.
I mean, Killer Kyle would kind of have to be over there and in position for it.
I
Like,
am sure that Akira Taue has done a Bucksnort Blaster off the top rope.
imagine, imagine White Boy leaping off the top rope with his arm outstretched to grab Kyle by the throat and giving the Bucksnort Blaster.
You think that that's what Kane was trying to do when he invented that diving clothesline?
Possibly. Possibly. Tracy ran down for the save, by the way, got overwhelmed. So White Boy grabbed his chain and hung primetime Brian Lee with it. For like the fourth time on Smoky Mountain TV in 2 years, because this, by the way, is the 2 year anniversary show um, of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I guess, hey, 105 probably should have tipped me off. But yeah, welcome to the 2 year anniversary of the Smoky Mountain Rewatch Along project. As we discover this an hour and 45 minutes into the show. Um, but yeah, this is the fourth time somebody has been hung in the 2 years this show has been on the air. I,
So we should be
I
right
gotta.
at our 1 year anniversary, right?
That was a couple weeks ago. I saw it on YouTube, or not YouTube, but Facebook. You know.
Hmm.
Um, let's now go to a show closing promo with White Girl, Tracy, and White Boy.
Dirty white girl.
You listen up here, you little street walking tramp. When I get my hands on you, honey, I promise you there's gonna be hell to pay.
Tracy.
Hey, white boy, as bad as you and I hate each other, I think we both hate that backstabbing Brian and that crybaby Chris and that stinking Tammy Witch worse.
You better believe it.
Hey, I say let's take care of these guys. You got a partner you can trust right here. I give you my word again as a man. Let's kick those guys' butts once and for all.
You got it, big guy. And what I'm looking forward to, February the 13th, Knoxville, Tennessee, at the Coliseum. It's a chain match.
There you go.
And Ron Wright is going to walk that aisle with me. A man, a living legend that has never, ever lost a chain match. So there's no way in hell, prime time, I'm going to lose in front of Ron Wright. What you just got out here was just a small taste of what's going to happen on the 13th in K-Town. Because then, big boy, in Knoxville Coliseum, I'm going to hang you with this chain from the damn rafters. And as God is my witness, I'm walking out the Smoky Mountain heavyweight champion.
All right, fans, it's going to be Sunday, Bloody Sunday, Knoxville, Tennessee, February 13th. You don't want to miss that. Next week, right here, Ron Wright. Much more. We'll see you then. And until then, so long for now.
I had to leave that last part in because while this promo is going on, and it's a very good promo, very heated promo by White Boy, all I could think is, man, the only thing to make this better would be a Ron Wright promo. And that's what Bob Caudle announces, that next week, Mr. Ron Wright will be here on the show.
Fantastic. We got to get this time machine working. I got to see this Tennessee chain match at Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
What about the cage match between the Moon Dogs and the Harrises?
And you know what? That Texas death match between the Bullet and Terry Funk. Really looking forward to that one. By the way, the local promos right before this, Tammy called the Dirty White Girl a walking infection, which as much as how dare you, that was a funny line.
Yes. Also, she's the 7-Eleven. You know.
Oh yeah, that was good. Oh, that Tammy is really like it was because when she first came in, she was like a deer in the headlights, and she's like as soon as she got comfortable, she became a really good promo.
She was like you. It took you 2 tapings to open up, much like Tammy Fitch.
Yeah.
All right, so 105 down, 95 to go. Another good episode of Smoky Mountain this week.
Yeah. I like where everything's going. It's to the point like I'm really bummed that we don't have a commercial release for Sunday, Bloody Sunday, because that just sounds like I really want to see like this Texas death match and this chain match in full. And I think we're gonna get to see part of them, but I don't think we get to see anything in full.
Nope, probably not. Well, so before we go, what else is happening in the world of wrestling? Because like we always say, I can tell you January, whatever day this is, 29th, 1994, until I'm blue in the face. But this way, you have some context. You're like, oh yeah, this is what was going on at the time. And there's rumors out there, Trae. Now, nothing else, just rumors that Hulk Hogan may be coming to WCW for a pay-per-view match this summer with Ric Flair.
Oh, no fucking way. Bullshit. Not gonna happen.
Well, that's what the WCW sources are saying, too. They are exceedingly skeptical that such a deal will ever take place.
Yeah.
But word is that he's planning on returning to wrestling in May after finishing filming a full season of Thunder in Paradise.
But they're going to get fucking 2 hours of prime time on Monday nights on TNT, too. Yeah, fucking right.
Piffed. The January 31st episode of Raw finalized the top matches for WrestleMania 10, which are Yokozuna defending the title against Luger, the winner of that taking on Bret Hart, and also to make things fair, Bret Hart must face his brother Owen, And both title matches are going to have special referees and other special guests.
And indeed they did. Was that Burt Reynolds?
Yes.
And like
He
Regis
was the
Philbin?
Nope, it was Donnie Wahlberg was the ring announcer for Luger versus Yoko, and Burt Reynolds was the ring announcer for Brett versus Yoko. Now, Bruce Pritchard, and again, take this with a grain of salt because it's Bruce Pritchard, but Bruce Pritchard once said that whatchamacallit, that at WrestleMania 10, he was giving Burt Reynolds instructions on what to do, and Burt basically told him off. He's like, I'm Burt Reynolds. You don't think I've ever done this before? You know,
You
I,
know, I would have to say, based on my knowledge of Burt Reynolds, that Burt Reynolds is in fact Burt Reynolds. Maybe even the most Burt Reynolds that ever Burt Reynolds. No bullshit right now. As I sit at my computer desk, I have three little trinkets on my computer screen. One is a keychain version of Thor's hammer. The other is my rock from Devil's Den at the Gettysburg Battlefield, and the other is my a little I cast Trans Am for Smokey the Bandit.
three little maids from school are we, pert as a schoolgirl well can be, filled to the brim with girlish glee. Three little maids from school. When you said you had three little, for some reason, that's what popped into my head was three little maids.
Are you filled with girlish glee, Arya?
Yes, I am. Um,
Tremendous.
you know,
How's the boyfriend?
I
We haven't had a boyfriend update this week.
he got into a car accident on Friday.
Oh no, is
He
he okay?
he's fine. He fractured um
Oh.
oh my God, I'm like, is it his thumb or his pinky? Like now I'm like hating myself for not remembering. It's his pinky. He fractured his pinky. And his car is donezo, and so we're going through the process of getting a new car.
Oh.
And
Well,
that's, as you know, is a pain in the ass.
I sure do. But we need to finish the podcast so you can call and check on him.
Oh, he went to sleep 52 minutes ago, so
Oh,
um
so he's fine, probably.
yeah, yeah. Well, this was Friday. Today's Tuesday. The shoot date is Tuesday. WCW held their Clash of the Champions special, which was the debut of Bobby Heenan as a color commentator, and he was said to have totally outclassed Jesse Ventura's work for the past 2 years. The main event saw Ric Flair and Sting beat Vader and Rick Rude in an elimination match. Flair was injured via two superplexes from Vader. Vader was somehow counted out, and then Sting pinned Rude with a splash off the top rope. Also, notably for reasons that will come up in 3 months, Rick Rude and Sting have signed to appear at the May 1st New Japan Wrestling Dontaku show.
Don't go, Rick.
Yeah. Stay home, Rick. That the WCW International World Title is not worth it.
You know what, though? Considering the way that he had been wrestling since the last injury, getting his Lloyd's of London payout might have been the best thing for him.
I mean, especially when you're at that point, like I don't want to say it was inevitable, but it's like the way he worked, him and Perfect, like they both ended up in similar situations. And, it
Yeah.
sucks, but
Well, the word always was that he wanted to make a comeback in '99 when he passed away.
yeah, that's the story. And I had heard that he could come back in the WWF, which just I don't know, that especially at the time, that doesn't seem right. Although, I mean, mind you, like WWF TV matches at the time were 1 to 2 minutes long, so it's not like he would have had to really go hard. But I don't see him in '99 WWF as a wrestler, and I don't
Okay,
see
what
Vince even.
if
Mhm.
alternate history? What if Rick Rude was the higher power?
Oh, son of a bitch! It's Mayos.
All of
Oh,
these Kansas City, whatever the fuck, sweat hogs.
keep the noise down, and behold, you're ravishing a higher power.
Uh,
Oh
Missed
Lord.
opportunity.
Yep, yep. Well, I mean, he was dead by that point, so. you know.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
But by the way, apparently Kurt Angle and Sandman have gone at it online. And speaking of phrases that are things, um, and whatchamacallit, Kurt Angle was whining, I guess, about that time he went to the ECW show with the Raven-Sandman crucifixion, and Sandman basically told him to fuck off. Um, and I
Valid.
remember. Go ahead.
Valid. I'm sorry. That whole thing was
Yeah.
so fucking stupid. And I love that fucking Scotty Raven did like the most blatantly insincere apology.
Oh yeah. But the reason why I bring it up is because, unfortunately, Sandman, when he responded to Kurt this time, didn't have the response that he had in the Forever Hardcore documentary, because after Kurt Angle signed with the WWF in early 1999, they like repeatedly on Raw did crucifixions with Austin and The Undertaker, and there was one with The Rock. Did Kurt go to Vince McMahon and order him to make Undertaker go out and apologize for crucifying Steve Austin? No.
No, he did not.
Yeah. Oh
The
Lord.
and that whole thing is stupid, but it's funny. Like Hack built the fucking crucifix. Like,
I mean, he was Jesus all the way to the end, you know.
yeah,
I was like, um, somebody also made the comment that, they were like on Raven because, he's Jewish, Paul Heyman's Jewish, even though
Taz. That
they
was
they
Taz's thing.
yeah, they didn't hang Salmon on a Jewish star, and someone made the
Uh,
joke if he did that, it would have just rolled out.
he did. Raven made that. Yeah, that's what Raven said.
Oh Lord. See, Raven is a funny guy sometimes.
He
Um,
really is.
yes. By the way, I think I'm coming down with an illness, so you need to do TNA this week so you can talk about Jeff Jarrett versus the Disco Inferno for the World Heavyweight Championship on
I
Wednesday.
quit. Mm,
Oh my God, I don't want to watch this fucking show.
I'm so sorry.
Uh,
These are the choices that you've made in your life.
I mean, here's, I guess, we're gonna end it on, in theory, a higher note because Cindy and I are recording two shows on either Saturday or Sunday, and the first one is Jarrett versus Disco Inferno, but the second one I think is the Jarrett Raven AJ Styles three-way where AJ wins the belt.
Okay, well, at least there's that.
But I think also the finish with that is Russo because
I
Russo
believe it
has,
was, if I
yeah,
remember right.
yeah, yeah. Fizzuk Russo, to quote Jim Mitchell on an episode of ECW on TNN. Anywho, speaking of ECW, how is the Oh My God cast coming along?
It's not yet because
Okay.
I was busy. I was like moving, and then I've been busy with stuff, and then I was having a depressive episode, and it'll happen. It'll happen when it happens. Just don't try to force it. Just let it happen.
Okay. So, but how are you doing now? Are you good?
I better than I was yesterday, I guess.
Okay. At some point, you need to watch Double or Nothing so I can whine about it. I
I
can
will
whine.
eventually. I
I,
have a lot
I
of
can.
like I have a lot of stuff to catch up on.
Keep in mind, I'm forcing you to watch it, and I did not watch it and have no intention on ever watching it.
But you're gonna complain about it.
Of course. Of course.
You
Anyway,
don't watch it. Why the fuck do you care?
until 6 weeks from now, when Trae watches Double or Nothing while he's in Texas, while he's already in Texas, while he's in Dallas for Y'all In, um, featuring the World Championship and the Women's World Championship matches that were set up on over the weekend. Until that point, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you all for listening. I don't know if we're doing a spot show tomorrow. be surprised like the rest of us. But thank you all for listening. We'll talk again in 7 days.
Bye.